Hey folks, Tim Ferriss here, author of the 4-Hour Workweek, Tools of Titans, etc. You might imagine that all my days are good days. I wake up and I conquer anxiety and doubt, lack of clarity with a mental karate chop, and I just annihilate the day. Hitting home runs, every single pitch that's thrown my way. That's not really how it works. Usually I wake up, I'm a little groggy, maybe I got bad sleep, had too much wine, who knows, and stumble through my day. Occasionally I have a good day, and that is, quite frankly, enough for me. And let me explain some of the questions I ask, some of the coping mechanisms I use when the day gets off on the wrong foot. For whatever reason, maybe I find myself at lunch or after lunch feeling like I haven't accomplished anything. What do I do in such cases? Well, the first is really a question that I use many times throughout a given, say, week or month, and that is, which of these, if I'm looking at my to-do list, much of which is probably undone in a case like this, which one of these, if accomplished, would make everything else easier or irrelevant? So I'll say it again. Which one of these, if checked off, would make everything else easier or irrelevant, meaning less important or completely unimportant? All right. The other question that you can use, which is more or less the same, is which of these, if checked off, would leave me satisfied with my day? Right, which one of these? Third question, and eventually you will come up with an answer that is actionable, is which of these, if done, creates more time for me next week? And it could be next month, could be tomorrow, but next week I find to be useful as a timeline. And this will generally point to some type of process or system that you can improve. So, okay, maybe you're not going to hit a certain milestone or ship a certain article or something as a finished work product, but you can improve a system or a process that will actually probably have a higher ROI over time and affect many other individual projects. Okay, so A, which one of these, if accomplished, would make everything else easier or irrelevant? Number two, which one of these would leave me satisfied with my entire day if it was the only thing I accomplished on this list today? And then last, which one of these will create more time for me next week, or more time for other people, for that matter? And then I would also say that you don't have to be super productive every day. And maybe if you're in some type of zero-sum game, you've chosen to be a venture-backed startup where everyone, or I shouldn't say everyone, but you have 3 or 4 nearly identical companies, all clawing for market share, and it's some type of network effect-based business, who knows? In such a case, okay, maybe you've signed up for the full contact sport that is the venture-backed startup world. Too bad, you have 80-hour weeks from here until it either succeeds or it blows to pieces in a supernova of capital destruction. Aside from that, if you are, say, a writer, an entrepreneur even, CEO, I know plenty of CEOs who certainly fall in this category, you're not going to be super productive and on point every day, and that's okay. So it's not as though you have to have a minimum number of hours each day within which you are hyper productive. In fact, I know a lot of people who will go through periods of being very unproductive for, say, a handful of days, maybe a handful of weeks if they're on a deadline and just stuck in a rut as it relates to, say, music, writing, or anything else. You don't have to get a lot of things right if you pick the right things. So this comes back, and I'm not going to belabor the point, but read The Effective Executive by Peter Drucker. What you do matters a lot more than how much you do or how well you do things. If you pick the right targets, you can get a very high ROI because you have an Archimedes lever. What does that mean? Archimedes lever means, in this particular context, that you're choosing, say, projects and goals that have beneficial side effects, even if they don't turn out as planned. So you're choosing, say, and this is very much borrowed from Scott Adams, who created Dilbert, which projects and so on can I commit myself to through which I will develop skills and relationships that persist even if they fail from the outside world, right? So if I do a podcast and I commit to 6 episodes, even if that podcast goes nowhere, which is how I thought about it, which skills and relationships can I develop in the process of doing 6 episodes that will make the exercise worth it, all right? And that will transcend that. That's also one of the tricks. And if you find yourself, say, by mid-afternoon feeling really unproductive, you've done nothing productive for the day, you can't quite figure out how to work your way out of it, what I've found myself doing as perhaps just a self-imposed therapy is saying, okay, maybe today isn't achievement day. Today is just going to be gratitude and appreciation day. So let me go for a walk. Let me notice the small things. Let me do a nice thing for someone in line and buy coffee for the person behind me at Starbucks, whatever it might be, and focus on the other side of the coin, which I think is equally important for contentment in any form of well-being or happiness, and that is appreciating what you have. So if you can't get what you want, you can practice wanting what you have. And as fortune cookie as that may sound, I think that if you can't be happy with what you have, you will never get anything that will make you happy. So you have to practice both achievement, and if you're flubbing that for the day, you're just like whiff, whiff, okay, airball, and you're just not making it happen, okay, maybe that is a sign from the universe or whatever power you want to choose that you can take the day and focus on gratitude, because that has a much less of a stress associated with it in terms of pass fail. That is something you can always make the most of, even if you only have a few hours left in the day. So those are a few of the things that I do when the day gets off on the wrong foot, or I feel like I am getting absolutely fuck all done with my day. So hopefully that helps. Good luck.